Hi, I'm Skinny Cheeks. In this video, we'll be covering the top 15 stamina DPS sets for PvE in the Elder Scrolls Online. Just like with the Magicka sets, it's really hard to put some of these in order as some are just better than others for different situations. But I tried to get them in the order I thought ranked them best by their overall usefulness and power for a stamina DPS. Big thanks to those that stopped by my Twitch stream and hung out and helped to rank these with me. Make sure to give my Twitch page a follow and my Twitter as well to stay up to date on when I'm going live and what I'm up to. Alright, so we'll start this one off with a few honorable mentions. Alkosh and Morag Tong are both great sets, but made the honorable mention list because they're generally best worn on supports. If you can't squeeze them onto your supports, though, it can still be nice to have them on a DPS. Azurblight is a set that can be really strong for AoE damage, but has the downside of only being usable by one person on the team at a time. And then 3 straight DPS sets, Armor of Truth, Pillar of Nirn, and Aegis Caller are all pretty solid DPS options, but due to them having to be farmed and not crafted or purchased, and having similar DPS to some of the other options we'll mention that can be easily crafted or purchased, they didn't quite make the cut. Starting at number 15, we have Old Faithful Hunding's Rage. This is a craftable set made in either Bankurai, Reaper's March, or the Rift, and requires 6 traits researched to craft. For the 2-piece bonus, we have Weapon Crit, 3-piece Stamina, 4-piece is more Weapon Crit, and then the 5-piece is 300 weapon damage. There's nothing super fancy about this set, but it has solid stats across the board and is a great option to use while you are seeking out other higher tier sets. Since it is just flat stats, this set will work well on any class. It's plenty good enough to get you through any content in the game. Alright, at number 14 we have Briarheart. This is a medium weight overland set found in Hrothgar. It can also be purchased from guild traders. The 2-piece is Weapon Crit, 3-piece is Stamina, 4-piece is Weapon Crit, and then the 5-piece, when you deal critical damage, you increase your weapon damage by 450 for 10 seconds. While this effect is active, your critical strikes heal you for 349 health. This effect can occur once every 15 seconds. If you average out the weapon damage from Briarheart over a longer fight, you pretty much get the exact same as Hunding's Rage. However, for short encounters, it can be really nice as the 450 weapon damage will last for 10 seconds before it drops off and usually pretty much instantly procs due to it only needing a critical strike to land to activate. The heal may not seem like much either, but if you have several abilities ticking, it can start to add up. This set is nice for some burst encounters, for solo survivability, and isn't a pain to get since you can purchase it off guild traders. Over the course of a longer fight, it doesn't add as much damage as some of the other options, so that's why it's only at number 14. Coming in at number 13, we have Deadly Strike. This is a medium weight Cyrodiil set found at the PvP vendor in Bruma. It can also be purchased from guild traders. The 2-piece is weapon damage, 3-piece weapon crit, 4-piece weapon damage, and then on the 5-piece, increase the damage of your physical, bleed, poison, and disease damage over time and channeled abilities by 20%. This set is absolutely nutty on Stamina Templars since it buffs their really strong spammable biting jabs along with any dots running. So why only 13 on the list? Unfortunately, outside of that, it kind of falls off pretty hard. It does also buff the spammable rapid strikes, so if you happen to be using that ability, plus are using a fair bit of damage over time effects, you can still see some pretty solid results with it. It only qualifies as one of the best sets on Stamina Templar though, so I couldn't justify moving it higher than 13. Alright, at number 12 we have Dragon Guard Elite. This is a medium weight overland set found in Southern Elsewhere. It can also be purchased from guild traders. The 2-piece is weapon critical, 3-piece is weapon damage, 4-piece is stam recovery, and then on the 5-piece, you gain a stack of Dragon Guard tactics for 5 seconds when you deal direct damage to an enemy from the front or their sides, up to 5 stacks. Each stack of Dragon Guard tactics increases your weapon critical by 476. You can only gain 1 stack every 1 second. This set offers quite a bit of critical chance, but it does take 5 seconds to build up. The biggest downside to the set though is the stamina recovery bonus on the 4-piece. If it wasn't for that, this set would probably be like number 3 or 4 on the list. One nice thing about this set, like many others you'll see for stam, is the set bonus lasts for 5 seconds, so it will carry over when you swap to your back bar if you only run it on your front bar. Overall, a good set, especially if you haven't been able to get to some of the later sets yet, and it is easily acquirable. At number 11, we have Tzogvin's Warband. This is a medium weight dungeon set found in Frostvault. The bonuses are 2-piece weapon critical, 3-piece weapon critical, 4-piece physical penetration, and then on the 5-piece, when you deal critical damage, you gain a stack of precision, increasing your weapon critical by 134 for 5 seconds, up to 10 stacks max. At max stacks, you also gain minor force, increasing your critical damage done by 10%. This effect can occur once every half second. This set is mostly used for ranged situations where it isn't feasible to be in melee range to cast Barbed Trap for your Minor Force. This also works for werewolf setups since they don't have access to the Minor Force buff in their toolkit. The penetration bonus can be nice for 4-man dungeons and solo activities, but is often not needed in optimized trial content, so it can be a positive or negative depending what you're using it for. The amount of crit chance it offers is pretty decent, but not as much as some other options we have, so you really only want to use this if you need it for the Minor Force buff, especially since Barb Trap does pretty good damage on its own already. If you do need Minor Force though, this is one of the stronger sets to use for sure. At number 10, we have Tooth of Locustes. This is a medium weight trial set found in Sunspire. The non-perfected version will drop from normal and the perfected version from veteran. For the 2-piece bonus, we have weapon damage, 3-piece minor slayer, 4-piece weapon damage, and then the 5-piece, when you activate a synergy, you gain major slayer for 16 seconds, increasing your damage done to dungeon and trial monsters by 10%. And then on the perfected version, we also get a critical line on that 5-piece. So the set's 5-piece bonus is really strong and easy to keep up 100% of the time with it lasting for 16 seconds. Unfortunately, there are other sources of Major Slayer in the game that you can obtain through sets like Roaring Opportunist and War Machine, allowing the DPS to run full damage sets and still get the buff that this set provides. If no one in your group is providing Major Slayer, this is definitely a set worth considering as it is strong but has fallen off a bit in organized 12-man content. Moving on to number 9, we have New Moon Acolyte. This is a craftable set made in Elsewhere and requires 9 traits researched to craft. It is also purchasable from guild traders if you don't have your traits researched yet to craft it. For the 2-piece bonus, we have Weapon Crit and Spell Crit. The 3-piece is Weapon Damage and Spell Damage. 4-piece is Physical Pen and Spell Pen. And then the 5-piece, 401 Weapon and Spell Damage, increases the cost of your active abilities by 5%. So this set has very strong set bonuses across the board, but at the price of increasing the cost of your active abilities. For some classes and setups, the 5% doesn't make much of a difference though, especially if you're in a group that is giving plenty of synergies for sustain. The penetration can be very nice for 4-man dungeons and solo stuff, but unnecessary in optimized groups where you would probably already be hitting the pin cap of 18,200 without it. Overall, it's a really strong set situationally, but might not be needed for higher end organized content. Alright, at number 8 we have War Machine. This is a medium weight trial set found in Halls of Fabrication. For the 2-piece bonus we have Stamina, 3-piece Minor Slayer, 4-piece Weapon Damage, and then on the 5-piece, when you use an ultimate ability, you and the closest 5 group members within 28 meters of you gain Major Slayer for 1 second per 10 ultimate spent, increasing your damage done to dungeon, trial, and arena monsters by 10%. With the Markarth DLC, Major Slayer was nerfed from 15% to 10%, but still a really strong buff to have. The duration for War Machine was also buffed though in Markarth and lasts 1 second per ultimate spent, meaning if you have 500 ults saved up, it will last for 50 seconds, or 70 seconds paired with Yorvold's Guidance. There are a few positives and negatives that ultimately landed this set where it did on the list. As I mentioned before, it is still a strong buff even with the nerf to 10% and can be activated outside of combat. This gives it a few uses. You could use it with an ultimate before combat begins and then swap to something else while maintaining the long Slayer uptime. You could also have a support role do this as well with Warhorn. It's really nice to have in 4-man content since it will cover the whole group. So for the negatives, the biggest one I'd say is that the buff can be obtained from Roaring Opportunist with 2 heavy attacks that will hit all 12 members of the group. So this doesn't matter so much for 4-man dungeons, but for 12-man groups, it's nice to ensure that everyone is getting the buff, as sometimes War Machine's Major Slayer will go to tanks and healers if your groups are not practicing really precise positioning. Another negative is that the set bonuses for the user, while they aren't awful, having no crit chance present and also no bonus stat on the 5-piece like some of the newer perfected sets have really hold the set back a bit. Overall, definitely a set worth grabbing, but will likely be outperformed by other sets in some situations. Alright, at number 7 we have Vicious Serpent, also known as Vicious Ophidian. This is a medium weight trial set found in any of the 3 Craglorn trials. For the set bonuses, we have Weapon Critical, Minor Slayer, Weapon Critical, and then for the 5-piece, reduces the cost of your stamina abilities by 8%. When an enemy you have recently damaged dies, you restore 2454 stamina and gain Major Expedition for 8 seconds, increasing your movement speed by 30%. These effects can occur once per second. And then the perfected version also adds 129 weapon damage. Overall, the stats are pretty nice. Weapon Critical is the best we could ask for on the 2 and 4 pieces. Minor Slayer is still strong, and the extra weapon damage on the 5-piece really helps fill it out. But the reason why this set is so good, the stamina return when multiple enemies are dying is just incredible. Doing 4-man or solo activities, it's really hard to run yourself out of stamina with this set. Plus it has a really nice 8% cost reduction to your stamina abilities on top of it. So what it lacks in damage damage it definitely makes up for in sustain, but unlike some other sustain sets, it still has enough raw stats to make it close enough in damage to be worth running in some situations. In today's game, stamina sustain seems a little easier to manage than magicka sustain for DPS, so this set doesn't see as much use as the mag equivalent, False God's Devotion. Stamina also has some really hard-hitting sets that are hard to give up for going for pure damage. So you won't see this much in organized group play, but for running around solo or pugging some 4-man dungeons, it's hard to beat the ease of use that it offers. Alright, at number 6 we have Mechanical Acuity. This is a craftable set made in the Clockwork City and requires 6 traits researched to craft. It is also purchasable from guild traders if you don't have your traits researched yet to craft it. The 2-piece adds max stamina, 3-piece max magicka, 4-piece weapon and spell damage, and then for the 5-piece, when you deal direct damage, you gain unerring mechanical vision for 5 seconds, granting you a 100% critical strike chance. This effect can occur once every 18 seconds. Since this is a guaranteed activation from direct damage, you can control when it triggers. For shorter ad waves, this is amazing as you'll pretty much have a 100% crit chance for the entirety of the fight. Another plus is that if you activate it correctly, all the crits are happening while you are using your spammables and your dots are already rolling. So not only are you getting the crit chance, but you're getting it at the right time. Similar to Briarheart, it loses a lot of its usefulness over the course of a longer fight, but with crit chance being stronger than weapon damage, this pushes this setup much higher in my opinion in the current meta anyways. It can still be decent over a longer fight, but definitely best suited for short burst encounters. Alright, now we're into the top 5. At number 5, we have Yondir's Might. This is a medium weight trial set found in Kind's Aegis. The non-perfected version will drop from normal and the perfected from veteran. For the 2-piece bonus, we have weapon damage, 3-piece minor slayer, 4-piece weapon damage, and then the 5-piece dealing critical damage grants you a stack of Giant's Endurance up to 1 every half second. Each stack of Giant's Endurance adds 41 weapon damage and stacks up to 10 times. Completing a fully charged heavy attack removes Giant's Endurance and grants Giant's Might for 15 seconds, increasing your weapon damage by 63 per stack removed. You cannot have Giant's Endurance and Might active at the same time. So this set has seen a few reworks since its initial release, and definitely for the better. This is one of the best AoE damage sets for stamina in the game now, as the penetration is actually pretty useful in those situations since rarely are all targets fully debuffed. Yondir is cool because the 410 weapon damage bonus actually never goes away as long as it is active on both bars. So once it's built up, you can have it set and keep it as long as you need. Then if you want to, you can heavy attack and get your boost to 630 weapon damage for 15 seconds, or you can just hang on to the weapon damage bonus at 410 too. It's good really either way. As I mentioned earlier, since the initial 410 weapon damage is permanent until you heavy attack, the set is limited in that you have to run it active on both bars. So if you try to front bar it only, the bonus will immediately disappear when you bar swap, and then you'll have to rebuild it up again. Overall though, I'm glad to see this set's in a much better spot than it was initially at release. Moving on to number 4, we have Leviathan. This is a medium weight dungeon set found in Crypt of Hearts 1 and 2. So for the 2-piece, we have stamina, 3-piece weapon crit, 4-piece weapon crit, and 5-piece weapon crit. This is the lesser used stam equivalent of Mother's Sorrow, and that's partially due to it being a dungeon set and not an overland set, but also stam having a bit more good sets to pick from generally than mag have had. However, as of the Markarth DLC, we are seeing levels of crit damage increases that we've never had access to before. Major Force was buffed to 20% crit damage, a new debuff Minor Brittle was added that adds 10% crit damage taken, and Nightblades as of last patch were given more crit damage as well, with Grim Focus adding another 10% for them. All of these things together have really pushed Leviathan up in the rankings, as crit chance is the key to unlock that crit damage. It is especially good in Bobo builds, since a set we'll talk about later only works with melee damage, and also in AoE setups, since some other crit chance options take time to build up, while this set has crit chance there immediately. Overall, a really nice option as of Markarth if you can get your hands on it. Alright, now in the top 3 we have Dead Waters Guile. This is a medium weight overland set found in Murkmire. It can be purchased from guild traders. For the 2-piece we have weapon damage, 3-piece health, 4-piece stamina, and the 5-piece gives us 129 weapon damage, plus when an enemy dies within 2 seconds of being damaged by you, you gain 15 ultimate. Well, if you saw this listed on the top 15 magicka sets, even with stamina-based sets, it's pretty safe to assume it was going to be on this one too. Because of the really nice 5-piece bonus, this set can allow you to use ultimates at a much faster rate than you'd normally be able to. For some encounters, you can practically spam Dawnbreakers, or if you're on a Necromancer, for example, you could spit out way more Colossus ultimates and maybe save some other team members from having to run it to keep it up on the enemies. It can also be nice to drop ultimates in places where you might normally save them, like a pack right before a boss fight. As of Markarth, this is currently my favorite AoE damage set in the game. Okay, moving on to number 2, we have Berserking Warrior, also known as AY or Advancing Yokida. This is a heavyweight trial set found in Hellraw Citadel. For the bonuses, we have 2-piece weapon critical, 3-piece weapon damage, 4-piece weapon critical, and then for the 5-piece, when you deal melee damage, your weapon critical is increased by 305 for 5 seconds, stacking up to 10 times. This can occur once every half second. This set takes about 5 seconds to get up and going, but once it is by far the most crit chance you can get from any set in the game. The 5-piece bonus alone comes out to almost 14% extra crit chance, and about 21% extra crit chance if you count the other 2 bonuses too. This is a heavy set, so you'll need to run it on your jewelry and weapons, but that actually works out really well. Since the 5-second timer resets every time you apply melee damage, the bonus won't fall off for 5 seconds, which gives us plenty of time to go to our back bar, reapply whatever abilities back there, and come back to our front bar and re-trigger it before the crit chance falls off. So not only is it an incredible bonus, but it carries over too. The only real downside to this set is the build-up time, so it isn't really best for a lot of AoE damage encounters that would be dead or close to it by the time this is built up. Overall though, especially with how high crit damage is in the game right now, this is a must-have set for stamina characters. Okay, and finally, at number 1, we have Arms of Relequen. This is a medium-weight trial set found in Cloud Rest. The non-perfected version will drop on normal, and the perfected from veteran. For the 2-piece bonus, we have weapon critical, 3-piece minor slayer, 4-piece weapon critical, and then the 5-piece, your light and heavy attacks apply a stack of harmful winds to your target for 5 seconds. Harmful winds deal 372 physical damage every 1 second. This effect can stack once every half second, up to 10 times. And then the perfected version also adds a line of max stamina. So this set has the strongest single target dot in the game. A lot of people look at the tooltip and think it's just decent when comparing it to other sets, but don't realize it ticks once per second on its own, and then also when you land a light attack. So really you can get it to tick twice per second. Not only that, but the tooltip here is without champion points applied. So this gets up to, I think, about 550. So at max stacks, we're looking at over 10k damage a second. The set does have some obvious downsides. It is purely single target damage, and it also has a ramp up period similar to Berserking Warrior. However, similar to Sororia, the build-up time was greatly reduced from how it was in previous patches, so it's now much more forgiving if you do let it fall off and have to build it back up again. If you can keep the dot up, it is hands down the strongest set in the game for damage. Plus, the 2 through 4 piece bonuses are the best you could ask for. The perfected bonus isn't huge, maybe 1.5 to 2% additional DPS tops from having the extra line of stamina, but it's still nice to have if you can get it. Even without the perfected version, it's definitely still worth getting a hold of if you're running a stamina DPS. Like most sets in the game, it is situational. You won't be using it on AoE heavy fights, but where you do use it, it does its job better than any other DPS set you can get a hold of. Alright, that's going to wrap up the updated top 15 stamina sets. I know there won't be agreement across the board on the order here. I guess that's really the nature with any list, but when it comes down to it, a lot of it is based on personal opinion. But I hope it does give you a good idea of where some of these sets stack up for the current state of things. Please let me know if there are any sets I missed or you think deserve to be up higher on the list. Thank you so much for stopping by. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.